So I went down the rabbit hole of, okay, how can every choice I make as a consumer, be made with the idea of, thinking about where does this come from and, what are the actual ingredients
Mhm,
and the materials that are being used and what happens at the end of the life of this product. And
mhm.
basically my mission right now, and I guess I've sort of maybe would categorize myself as becoming a zero waste living advocate.
Hi, this is Izumi Tanaka with Home Green Homes Podcast. This is an episode number 2 of season 3. My guest today is Amanda Cavallo, who is an architect by profession. She is just as passionate about making a difference in the world, especially the environment. She and I serve on Green Home Committee for USGBC LA, and I was so excited to learn that she is on the mission to create a waste-free lifestyle. Here's my conversation with Amanda about how she's doing with her mission and challenges and hopes that come with it. Enjoy the show. So, Amanda, thank you so much for coming today. And first of all, tell us a little bit about you. I know you're an architect. I know you're from Boston.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about you in terms of how you got to be so interested and passionate about environmental issues.
Well, thank you for having me. It's great to be here. My name is Amanda Cavallo. I, my world revolves around sustainability, like you were saying, in my practice and also in my life. And it's hard to pinpoint a single moment where I, became interested in sustainable living and activism. I think for a lot of people, they find it because, it's at the point where they become educated in how, important it is and how much potential is there. But for me, it's kind of something that's always been a part of me, you know, just naturally. Um, I guess one aspect of it is growing up, I always was outdoors and I always felt very connected with nature. Um, in my love for nature, I was always fascinated with animals and
Mm,
interested in ecosystems and learning about how it all works. Um, I would go camping with my family, and my dad, at a time, studied marine biology and would teach us all about, ecosystems in the ocean, and we had fish tanks. So that love of science was something that I just grew up with.
mhm,
And then what led me to architecture was kind of the combination of my love for science and creative problem solving, and my love for art. I was always, a very artsy kid. I was always making things, um, you know, crafting, and I didn't have a lot of money to, buy my own materials. So
mhm,
I had to just use what was around me and be resourceful, um, working with what I had on hand, just junk, toilet paper rolls, scrap paper, reading books on, making paper out of lint from the dryer, that sort of thing. So from early on, I learned to see the value and potential in materials and
mhm,
resources that usually just got thrown out. And I kind
mhm,
of always took that with me.
mhm,
Um, and then, going into architecture, really those components, sustainable design is essentially just good design, because you're finding the most efficient ways to build something and function. You're trying to maximize the value and the benefits that you're getting out of each choice. So to me, I don't really see any other way to be. I guess one other kind of tipping point for me was in architecture school. I got my Bachelor of Architecture from Syracuse University. And, in all my studios, my projects, I was focusing on, bringing in sustainable systems and
mhm,
working with the surrounding ecosystems in nature. And then my thesis year, fifth year, you spend the whole year doing one project.
Mm.
Um, and mine was called Green Culture Revolution, where the physical project itself was addressing sea level rise in Boston,
Mm.
exploring this idea of softening the shoreline rather than seawalls and concrete barricades and uh, these systems we have now that are increasingly failing and
Mhm.
causing severe destruction,
Mhm.
and instead rebuilding the wetlands and reinstating the ecosystems that would create a buffer between the ocean and the city that bridges it rather than cutting it off, and then using that space as parks for recreational activities. So my design was to do a park with a community center that was made up of amphibious pavilions, which are the tide can come in and flood the foundation, and then these pavilions
Mm.
and then energy can be generated from the tide pulling in and out. I just thought that was so interesting. Um,
Yeah.
and I didn't invent the idea of an amphibious pavilion, but for
Mm.
me, the study was more so on the idea of working with nature,
Mhm.
reconnecting with all of the mutually beneficial relationships we could have. Um,
Mm.
so the real meat of it that I was trying to get to, I didn't even really care about the architectural design so much, is investigating how architecture can contribute to an urban social shift in general, a paradigm shift towards
Yeah.
nature-based values and lifestyle and spirituality even.
Mhm.
My muse was this book called Dark Green Religion by Bron Taylor.
Mm.
I've mentioned it to you, and I have a copy if you want to borrow it. Um,
Yeah.
just going deep into how you know sustainability affects us on every level.
Mhm. What you're describing is actually more than sustainable. I think you're really going into more regenerative, practice, whether it's the architecture or the shoreline project. It's so fascinating, and you and I really connected because we both share this passion of like changing the paradigm, like you said, how we live. So, and even though we want to talk to you more about the architectural practice that you are engaging, but uh, we wanted to talk about your idea of living waste free, right? Because we are inundated with waste, in the urban culture and modern culture, everything comes in packages and stuff. So tell me about that. And how did you, I mean, it's pretty obvious that we care. And so
Right.
how is it going? And tell me what your how you define your waste free, or what is it that you're doing in your daily life that you're trying to accomplish?
Right. Well, first of all, the term zero waste, going zero waste, waste-free living is just really a buzzword because,
Mm-hmm.
we're truly a long way from actually being zero waste or completely waste-free.
Yeah.
The idea is just we're trying to reduce the amount
Mm-hmm.
of waste we're producing and make mindful choices as a consumer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you know, like we spoke about sustainability being part of, it has to go beyond just our practice as green designers. Is I think if we're going to talk the talk, then we have to walk the walk. We need to, if we're going to suggest, all these sustainable systems to our clients, we
Mm-hmm.
also need to be practicing these
Exactly.
values. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so I went down the rabbit hole of, okay, how can every choice I make as a consumer, be made with the idea of, thinking about where does this come from, and what are the actual ingredients
Mm-hmm.
and the materials that are being used, and what happens at the end of the life of this product, and
Mm-hmm.
so basically my mission right now, and I guess I've sort of maybe would categorize myself as becoming a zero waste living advocate, is just I'm on my own personal mission to
Mhm.
reduce the amount of waste that I produce and to educate myself, and then just wanting to share what I'm learning with the other people in my life, in the hopes that they get inspired and encouraged to do the same.
Yeah. So I know we both are trying so hard. Like I am, trying to reduce my plastic waste, for instance, and I have pledged not to buy those sandwich bags or saran wraps or plastic wraps, and I'm replacing with beeswax and silicones and things like that. So tell me some of the things that you have been doing, and as you said, I think the point of what we are doing is that you and I are learning as we go, and then we are able to share with other people so that other people can do the same, or pick up the same idea of thinking about where the product comes from and where it goes after we dispose of it, and how we dispose of it. So I'm really curious to know how you are doing and what kind of things that you are doing to accomplish that.
Right. Yeah. And that's exactly it, is just, changing your mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of figure it out. And
Yeah.
it's one small change at a time, one
Yeah.
swap, one change of habit. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not overnight and it's not going to be perfect. And that's okay. And I think
Exactly.
we need to remind people of that to make it feel less overwhelming,
Yeah.
more approachable. So what I started doing is, I was just already doing this for myself. And whenever I would, have a friend visit, it was like show and tell because I would be all excited, like, oh, like look at this new sustainable leaf raiser I got in rose golds. I love it, and putting it out there. And then me and a close friend of mine, Carolina Royan, who's also an architect, decided to start a channel, social media channel, and just start making videos of all of these things that we're learning and like all our favorite swaps, just so we can, put it out there. And if we can reach our friends and family and some of
Mm-hmm.
them make the swaps, great,
Mm-hmm.
it's doing something. And then if we reach even more people than that, even better. um, so that, it's we're working on it. It's still very new, very fresh, but it's called Turn to Earth Collective.
Mm.
uh, we have an Instagram, that's Return to Earth Collective with underscores between the words. And on TikTok, it's just Return to Earth with underscores. Um, and so, we've put out a few posts so far, and
Mm-hmm.
we're working through it. And I have this whole list, this whole notebook of, thoughts and ideas and all of these companies that I'm following and brands and products, that I've just been keeping for myself. So we're working down the list and making to share with everyone.
Yeah. So share some of the items that you have on your list.
Sure. So it's anything from there's a lot. So like some examples of zero waste in general, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
might be,
Mm-hmm.
switching away from single-use disposable products, obviously, to reuse.
Right.
So the examples most people know at this point are, having your reusable water bottle instead of using
Mm-hmm.
plastic water bottles, or, your thermos to get your coffee,
Mm-hmm.
versus, you know, getting the paper cup that's not recyclable with the plastic lid that probably will never actually be recycled.
Right.
Um, uh, having tote bags, for shopping, rather than using, plastic grocery bags at the store. Um, I stopped buying paper towels and I got these pretty bamboo and cotton cloths, that I just reuse, and they go in the
Mm-hmm.
laundry
Mm-hmm.
and get washed, and I just keep using them. And that's something, that used to be the way it was before paper towels were invented in the 50s or whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, so, and then the other big aspect that's really important to me is avoiding plastic as much as possible. That's like the
Mm-hmm.
kind of huge one. It's a huge problem. And I think there are a lot of people that don't realize how much of a problem it is.
Yeah.
Um, and so, that could be, something that I've really been working on is buying, food, dry goods in bulk, and
Mhm.
refilling my own containers, my own jars.
Mhm.
You know, going to um, there are zero waste shops. There's plenty around LA. Lucky for us, you know, where you can
Mhm.
take your own jars and you can fill up on, you know, toiletries and cleaning products and all that, and you're just cutting all that unnecessary plastic out. You know, or
Mhm.
just like when you go to the grocery store or the farmer's market, like, and you're getting produce, pick the things that aren't wrapped in plastic because they don't need to be. Um,
Right.
um, Another example might be weaning myself off of fast fashion.
Mm.
Um, that's another
Mhm.
one where, you know, people don't realize the carbon footprint of the fast fashion industry. And,
Yeah.
you know, even if you donate clothes to a Goodwill or a thrift shop, most of those clothes don't get sold and they end up in the landfill. Uh,
Mm.
so just trying to invest in higher quality, timeless, you know, clothing made from natural materials, organic cotton, bamboo, hemp, linen,
Mhm.
um, or ideally, you know, starting by shopping at thrift shops or repairing or repurposing something I already have, you know, getting it on Poshmark or eBay, you know, and then if I really had to get, you know, a new pair of yoga pants that spandex or something, you know, there's some companies that I found that I really like that are at
Mm.
least using recycled, you know, 80%
Mhm.
recycled plastic or something like that.
Mhm. Yeah. So, like you said, you're in LA. We're in LA where we can have access to, say, no waste products. So what are those are huge challenges. And even for me too, like um, going to grocery stores, and it's so hard for me not to buy produce that doesn't come in plastic, and what are the other challenges that you find, like in your effort, in your desire to not consume plastic, you know, products that come in plastic? What do you find it most difficult?
Well, like you said, it's part of it is accessibility is an issue. You know,
Yeah.
it's hard to find in a lot of places, and you
Mm-hmm.
know that's by design. You know, we
Mm-hmm.
know that the oil companies are pushing plastics to
Mm-hmm.
just, you know, accumulate more wealth, and
Yeah.
it's everywhere. And I think really it's just doing the best you can, like make choices based on that. Like, oh, you know, maybe I just won't get cherry tomatoes because I can't find any that don't come in this plastic box. So instead, I'll go for, you know, the larger tomatoes on a vine,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
for now. And
Mm-hmm.
it's doing the best we can with what we have now, but then it's also pushing for more of those options to become available.
Mm-hmm.
You know, expressing your interest and desire in these things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, a huge part of it, and you know, this is one of the number one things I say in trying to convince people, you know, why they should bother when they're up against, you know, oil companies and these big corporations and
Mm-hmm.
companies that are they are causing 80% of the plastic waste in the world.
Right.
The reason we should try to do it in our own personal lives is because, you know, using the power of your dollar. Like consumer choices drive the market. So
Mm-hmm.
creating demand collectively to start seeing that market change and more sustainable options becoming available to more people.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that does work. It takes a lot of time. It starts in places like LA and then hopefully, you know, disperses out to other cities. Um, so and then it's the other hurdle is just, you know, educating yourself and having to
Mm-hmm.
take the time to do the research. And
Mm-hmm.
that's part of, you know, what me and Carolina are trying to do is to, you know, we share the research so you don't other people don't have to do the work.
Right.
You know, we're all
Right.
busy.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily people don't have time.
Yeah.
It's confusing. You know, and that's what other things that we're trying to put in there is, you know, tips as to navigate the confusing things like, okay, what actually goes in the compost bin and what doesn't
Mm-hmm.
actually
Yeah.
goes in the recycling. how does that all work? And, what
Mhm.
is greenwashing?
Right.
How do I tell the difference between companies that are lying about how sustainable they are and like what are the red flags to look for, that kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
And then the last part is, you know, in a lot of ways, it's a privilege, especially in
Yeah.
the United States, to be able
Mhm.
to go zero waste and to, you know, put the energy into thinking about it, first of all, but then
Mhm.
also having access to these things, and in a lot of cases it becomes boutique.
Yeah.
So it's buying bulk is something that should actually save you money. Like
Yeah.
going through waste, you do it not just because, you're protecting the earth or whatever. It's
Mhm.
for your own benefit. It's because you're making choices that are healthier for you and that are
Right.
going to save you money in the long run.
Yeah.
So, finding places that can afford to sell zero waste goods, at the price that they're actually meant to be, without, the subsidies that we see in oil and, cow farming and all that. So
Mhm.
yeah, where it's a challenge. But I
Mhm.
think people can make changes in their lifestyles and their habits when they are really motivated to. Like, you'll
Mhm.
happen.
Mhm.
So it's
Yeah.
it's yeah, trying to
Mhm.
make people see the value in it so that they feel motivated to do so.
Mhm. Yes, I agree with you completely that, to be able to shop so mindfully, whether it's food product without plastic or, a lot of the like skincare, personal care products all come in plastic containers. And to be able to go to like the store that you introduced me to in Santa Monica, the No Waste store, that's really feels very exclusive,
Mhm.
and what do you think what that we can do in terms of like you and I can talk to each other all day long about this, right? And we can talk to a lot of our colleagues who are in the field of sustainability. But I think the real challenge is to talk to people who are not thinking that, and whether they're in the privileged uh, world or unprivileged. And it's like people who are not really thinking about, oh, I should think about not wasting, putting stuff in the landfill. Do you have any tips in terms of how we can reach those people and live, you know, more mindfully and not, I guess, not wasting plastic or not wasting, food. Um, I find that to be the biggest challenge for myself. So if you have any tip, how to talk to those people, like how what can we do? How can we inform them without being preachy?
Right, yeah, and I certainly feel that. Um,
Hmm.
I think part of it is setting up your expectations, going in knowing that people are going to be resistant. They're
Hmm.
are afraid of change. Changing your habits is hard. They're going to be skeptical. So I think, coming in with that understanding and having empathy is important because then you aren't going to react with, the frustration,
Hmm.
um, and, start arguing with them, or, you won't be exhausting yourself because, you feel so passionately about this and you're trying
Hmm.
to get through to them, but you can't.
Hmm.
I think knowing that it's for people to change, it takes time and it's going to take, gentle persistence, and they also have to hear it from multiple resources. You're
Yeah,
not going to convince them in one conversation.
right, exactly.
I think keeping that in mind is helpful for me
Yeah,
and
yeah.
my own sanity.
Hmm.
Um, the other part is, like you said, when you're talking to people about it, is you don't want to sound preachy or judgmental. You don't want to come from a place of, trying to make them feel guilty or
Hmm.
pressured to make a change that they don't feel like they really want to make. Um, and just really being more positive and encouraging and coming from the angle of just sharing, your own positive experience and
Hmm.
leading by example is a huge part of it.
Yeah.
People need to feel like they are, uh, like it's their idea, like they're making the decision on their own accord and not because someone else told them to. So you know, if they're seeing you make changes and it's working out in a positive way for you, and you're kind of like, look how great this is, and it's sexy and appealing, then that's how more people are going to get drawn in. So that's my approach, and that's our approach with this return to earth vlog is trying to put out, the how great it could be, if
Mm-hmm.
we made these changes in our lives and shifted the market to a more circular economy versus a linear economy, and how much
Right.
money you can save, and how much better you feel about
Yeah.
your choices
Yeah.
and all that.
Yeah. Well, tell me a story, one story to share where you felt so excited or fulfilled by your effort to reduce your waste. Is there any big thing that you can share?
It happens all the time. I feel like it's
Yeah.
constant ups and downs. There are definitely moments that are exhausting and discouraging, but then there are those moments that like hit me like, wow, okay, maybe it is going to make a difference, and it's one
Mm-hmm.
person at a time.
Yeah.
So I guess one example would be I just started posting on my Instagram stories just on my personal account because
Mm-hmm.
like I said, I was excited and I wanted to share this stuff, and I got this leaf razor. That's, it's this pretty rose gold metal handle. There's no plastic involved, and it's a three blade, and you just replace the actual blades when they get dull, and
Uh-huh.
you can mail them back to the company and they recycle and put them out more.
Oh,
And it's great.
wow.
And it was to get the initial kit is an investment. I think it was like $80 or something.
Mm-hmm.
But in the long run, it'll save me money because it's the last razor that I'll ever need to buy. So
Yeah.
I was excited picture and I posted on Instagram and put it out there. And then I got a message from a woman that I met just around here in Santa Monica. She was
Uh-huh.
working at a cafe I frequent, the one
Yeah.
that we got coffee at actually.
Yeah.
Um, and we were acquaintances and we followed each other on Instagram, and she messaged me and she was like, Amanda, thanks so much for posting this. Like, I've been looking for something like this. It's so cool. I'm definitely going to get one, something like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, this was unexpected. I reached someone, I helped
Mm-hmm.
someone.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's enough.
Yeah.
That's the most we can do,
Yeah. Yeah.
is it's the
Oh,
little things that the collective effort, right?
yeah. Wow, that's great. I am so grateful that you're doing it one day at a time, one person at a time, and one thing at a time, right? I mean, I
For
see
sure.
that there are more and more products out there that are very consciously created and, thought through to the end of that product's life cycle. And I'm quite hopeful that we are definitely on the right track, and it takes people like you to keep the movement going. So thank you so much, Amanda. And so, your YouTube channel is already alive. Return to Earth Collective.
No YouTube channel yet. We will
Okay,
be getting to
okay.
that. Right now, it's just Instagram and
Instagram.
TikTok.
Okay,
We have an email, return to earth collective at gmail.com if people want
okay,
to contact us with questions.
okay.
But yeah, we're going to get a website together, and we're working on it one thing at a time. But I thought this was a good opportunity to at least
Yeah,
share and start um, collecting followers, and um, hopefully we can reach more people.
yeah, definitely. And when your website is up, you can always come back and talk to us about
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to
it.
report. There's a lot
Yeah,
of things in the pipeline right now. So
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm excited to know you, and I'm excited to kind of grow together and do all
likewise,
these things. Yeah, I
and
know.
that's what gives hope too, right? Is entering this community of like-minded folks that all have this
Hmm.
passion, and realizing that there are actually a lot of us, and it's
Yeah,
growing the day.
yeah,
So that's great.
exactly. Yeah. So thank you so much, Amanda. So return to return to Earth Collective. That's let's look for them on Instagram and TikTok, right?
Right.
Thank you so much, Amanda.
Thank you.
This
It was
was
a pleasure.
this was Izumi Tanaka with Home Green Homes, the podcast. Thank you so much. Until the next episode.